All right, let's open up the case file on this one. It's an old one, a cold case from 1954, but it's one of those stories that just gets under your skin. We're diving into a mystery that doesn't just call a man's identity into question, but maybe even our own reality. And yeah, that pretty much sums it up. That's not the setup for a weird joke. It's the core fact of a truly bizarre and to this day, unsolved incident. This is the exact moment a routine customs check spiraled into something, well, something completely unexplainable. So, picture this. It's Tokyo International Airport. The year is 1954. It's a busy, typical day, travelers are coming and going, and then a man walks up to the immigration desk and hands over his passport. And what happened in the next few minutes would completely stump Japanese officials and create a legend that people are still talking about. Now, what's really important to get here is that at first, there was nothing unusual about this guy. He looked totally normal, well-dressed, seemed like a regular businessman. He spoke multiple languages, including Japanese, and said he was just there for a standard business trip. Absolutely no red flags. That is, until the official actually looked at the passport. You know, in any investigation, you've got to start with the physical evidence. And in this case, the evidence itself was the whole mystery. So let's do what the investigators did and take a close look at what they found in this man's possession. So at a glance, everything looks pretty legit, right? He's got a wallet, a checkbook, different kinds of money. He's even got a hotel reservation. I mean, everything you'd expect a business traveler to have. The problem wasn't what he had, it was where it all came from. This is where the whole thing just falls apart. The passport. It didn't look fake. Not at all. It looked real, and it even had what appeared to be authentic visa stamps from his previous travels, including to Japan. But the issuing country, a place called Taured, it just didn't exist, nowhere on any map. And it gets weirder. His driver's license, his checks, all of it was from this impossible place. He had a perfect set of documents from a country that wasn't real. So with the physical evidence just leading them in circles, the investigators had to turn to the man himself. They figured, okay, he's got to give us some answers. But his story? Well, it only made things a whole lot more confusing. The officials trying to get to the bottom of this pull out a world map. They ask him, okay, show us where Taured is. And without even hesitating, he points right to the tiny country of Andorra. You know, the one right between France and Spain. But he had a very different name for it. And this is where it gets really strange. He didn't just say they were wrong. He got genuinely angry, confused. He insisted that the place he was pointing to was called Taured, and that it had been called Taured for the last 1,000 years. He could not understand why their map said Andorra. It wasn't the reaction of someone caught in a lie. It was the reaction of someone whose entire reality was being denied. So what do you do with that? It left the investigators with this huge question. Was this guy just an incredibly good con artist, pulling off some kind of bizarre prank? Or was he lost in a way that is, well, almost impossible to imagine? And every single lead they followed just went nowhere. The company he said he worked for, it didn't exist. The hotel where he supposedly had a reservation, they'd never heard of him. It was as if this man and his entire life had absolutely no record, no footprint in our world. The investigation had hit a total brick wall. Okay, so when all the normal detective work fails, you start to look at some less normal theories. In a case this weird, you better believe it attracted some wild explanations. Pretty much all the theories fell into one of two buckets. On one hand, you have the rational explanation. This was a genius-level hoax. Maybe some kind of spy with incredible resources, though nobody could figure out what the point would be. And then, on the other hand, you have the paranormal ideas, which suggest that maybe, just maybe, the man was telling his truth, just not one from our world. You know, this case became a huge deal for people who study these kinds of things. Could he have been a time traveler who just landed in the wrong place? Or did he accidentally slip through some kind of hole in reality? The most popular theory, though, is that he was from a parallel dimension, a universe almost exactly like ours, except for one tiny detail. The country of Andorra is named Taured. But the story doesn't just end with a confused man in an interrogation room. Oh no. The ending of this story is what takes it from a weird anecdote and turns it into a full-blown, unsolvable legend. What happens next is the real kicker. So the authorities didn't know what to do with him. They couldn't charge him with anything, but they couldn't just let him go either. So they put him up in a hotel room for the night. And this was a secure setup. The room was way up on a high floor, no balcony, and they put 2 guards right outside the door. The only door. There was literally no way out. The next morning, they opened the door, and the room was empty. No signs of a struggle. The window was still locked from the inside. The guards never left their post. The man from Taured had vanished. And if that wasn't impossible enough, get this. It wasn't just the man who was gone. At the exact same time, all of his documents, the passport, the license, everything that started this whole mess, they disappeared from a secure evidence locker back at the airport. Every single piece of physical proof that he had ever been there was just wiped clean. And that, right there, is where the case file goes cold. No man, no evidence, no explanation. It's the perfect mystery, because the very proof that it happened vanished along with the man, leaving nothing behind but this incredible story. So that leaves us with the ultimate question, doesn't it? When you're left with a story that has no hard evidence and no rational explanation, what do you believe? Do you go with a logical answer that it was a perfect hoax that somehow left zero trace? Or do you let yourself wonder if, maybe, for just one day, our world was visited by someone from somewhere else?